Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls, to my weekend chat. And lovely to have you here. I hope that you can join in today's conversation. And I have several questions for you and lots of things to review from this week. And I thought today that I would start on drawing down this beautiful poem. I love opening my Wee Moon journal and just sort of luxuriating in the poetry in this book. And welcome to KC. That's lovely. I'm so glad that you're here. Drawing down, I extend my arms and reach towards the love and light of the moon above, scoring the skyscrapers. I peek and see her light between the trees of the land that has welcomed me. Cradled in the water, her reflection stills my heart, just as the ripples, the tides high. High as she who watches us all. I want to read that verse again. Cradled in the water, her reflection stills my heart, just as she ripples the tides high. High as she who watches us all. Selene, moon goddess, Cybele, great mother, Inanna, moon daughter, I reach and invite your power to ignite in me. Gratitude is all I am, all I have to say, and welcome if you choose to stay. So lovely. All right. Well, on this Saturday, I didn't post a poll, but I would like to do that. On Mondays, I have been doing readings, and some of these readings are from clients, and some of them come from you, from questions that people have emailed to me for the Monday Marseille. And I want to talk about Marseille decks. And maybe this would be a conversation for a separate video, but I thought I would just put this out there and maybe you could respond, or those of you that are watching the replay could comment in the replay. And I want to thank Dee for her honesty and making a comment in my Marseille Monday a couple of weeks ago. And Dee's preference is for the classical reproductions, restorations. And I have, over the last couple of weeks, been using contemporary modern takes on the Tarot de Marseille. And this has been quite a switch for me because I spent all of 2024 pretty much using classic reproductions. This is the Yves Renaud Madanier reproduction. And sorry, I have a very noisy chair here today, so when I switch, it might make a noise. This is an absolutely stunning deck. I have to say, of all of the decks that I have, this one most definitely is a favorite. I love the faces. And its general color scheme it's a very classic color. None of the colors are particularly bumped, and I don't know, I think it may be the faces that really get me in this deck, and also the way that the paint appears antiqued, and it's really a lovely, lovely deck. There are a couple others that I feel very close to and very honored to have in my collection. And this is one, I'd say one of the top ones. Now, I've been getting a little adventurous in purchasing other contemporary versions of the Marseille. And this one is a little odd. It's a little quirky and weird. This is a squid cake, and I read with it this week. And, honestly, I am getting really great readings with these contemporary, modern takes on the Tarot de Marseille. And I get it. It's a little odd. It's a little weird to have this classical system illustrated in this way. And I don't think that I have had hi, Catherine. Welcome. I don't think I've had, let's see, lost my train of thought. This one I read with a few weeks ago, and it's a little bit closer to an older deck, but it still is quirky, right? And it's got some really amusing faces, and I love the colors in this one. And I'm having so much fun reading with these cards, not just this deck, but reading with this system. It really is opening up and extending something for me, especially in the minor arcana. I love just sitting and reflecting on the relationship between the floral accents, the growth, the leaves, and the elements, and the relationship between these two things. I don't know. So this is my question for you. And you can either chime in now, or you can come back in a comment and let me know if what your preference is. I have been trying to expand and be a little bit more open with my own preferences. I want to give everything its due consideration, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. So, Nova's Tag. Decks that I recommend. And I probably still have these banners here because I'm still working on this series. Okay. I decided that with Nova Mundi's tag that I was going to turn it into a series because I had so much to say. And there was no way that I could respond to this tag in one video. It would have been 3 or 4 hours long. So what I have decided to do for each of the questions is to choose 2 mass market and 2 indie decks and speak to the question. And for the inner child question, I shared with you my World of Pooh deck. That was one of the indies, and this is one of the mass markets that I shared. And I hadn't had this out for a while, and it's going to stay out on my table. I had, there was a Forest Tarot, came in a large box, Llewellyn deck that captivated a lot of people. I can't think what it was called. I have had the one with the little creatures, the magical forest. I've had a few different forest-like magical decks. I have Tarot of the Divine. I did have Hunt's Fairy Tale Tarot. There's been a few that I've had over the years. And this one, bar none, is, I don't know what it is. It's something very universal in the artwork. And you don't need to memorize 78 fairy tales to understand the deck. And it is close enough to the more familiar Waite-Smith tarot that you can really start to bring in associations if you get stuck. Now, there is an amazing guidebook by Tony Brooks, and I just felt like I was missing something in not having this deck out on my table as one for regular readings, for more regular readings. And so in this tag, I am also expanding on Nova's questions and prompts and going a little deeper with what it means. Isn't this gorgeous, this world card? Oh, and this reminds me, I did back the Psyche Butterfly deck by Kelly Burton. I wasn't going to, but I just decided that I was going to do that. I have all of her decks, and I really like her as a human, and so the Butterfly deck is based on Psyche. Yeah. So yeah, so this deck is going to stay out, and I'm going to work with it and read with it more, because I think there's something very healing and soothing. And when I think of inner child work, it's about tapping into that part of you that was hurt in some way a long time ago. And look at this Hierophant card. Isn't that just so tender? And about you as an adult holding the hand of little you and saying, okay, I've got you. And together we're going to walk through this. And yeah. And I think also acknowledging that it's all connected. The stuff that I'm going through now and the stuff that little me went through so many years ago, there's this brilliant connection. So I'm really enjoying this series, and some of the questions are a little more challenging than others. For the shadow work deck, I had a list that was so long, and one of the decks that I didn't share in that video maybe last week, was this one. And one of my aha moments when I was talking about shadow work was this, because two of the decks I shared were black and white. And it had to do with this realization of what black and white represents. I mean, it represents many things, but our comfort or discomfort in the darkness and with our own darkness, and how the light and the dark truly are inseparable, and we mustn't deny our darkness. Now, our darkness is not always negative, and that's another piece that I think sometimes we forget. Our darkness, it's like that quote that I use all the time. Something like this. And our darkness could be something that we are afraid to let shine. And I think this is a really beautiful deck. This is the first edition of The Lonely Dreamer by Melissa Wotherspoon that she gifted to me. And she's such a lovely person. Yeah, so this has been really fun to respond to all of these, and I'm doing them as separate videos. And this week I posted the one on deity work, and this one was actually kind of difficult for me. The wording of the question was a little bit awkward, and I did like the idea of spiritual bridge, connection, working with spirit guides and higher realms. And so there was 4 decks again that I shared. So in each of these, I'm presenting 2 mass market and 2 indie decks that I think fit very well with this theme. So that's been kind of fun. Yeah. Okay. So the last few weeks, I've been working through the Suit of Wands in the Mythologia Fennica and Margaret Peterson and the Greenwood Tarot. And today I'm going to carry on with the court cards for that and have a little look at that. And I just also want to remind you that in the description box below is a link for the Mythologia Fennica event that is happening online. And it's a Canadian that's doing it. I believe she's broadcasting from Toronto. And so that's happening in early June. If you are resonating with this deck and want to learn more about it, I believe she is of Finnish descent. And also below is the Kickstarter link for the Greenwood Tarot. And where are my cards? Here they are. So I am really happy for those of you that don't have this deck and have an opportunity to pick it up for quite a reasonable price. So that's great news. Could have it in hand as early as September. Okay. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Bear with me. Okay, so where we were last week was with the pages. And I did talk about the page cards, and I really like this one from Margaret Peterson. You just sort of see the freedom of energy, the flow of energy. There's a few tarot decks where I have, you see a child dancing. There's this sense of freedom and ease of movement and so much creativity. I think this is, this is not an easy deck to read unless you begin working with it. And this is one card I want to say is easier to read. And I'm going to look at all of the court cards today. In the Greenwood Tarot, we have animals. And what's really interesting, and I will address this more because there's animals as well in the Mythologia Fennica, is that I suppose 2 of them move underground and 2 of them move on the land. There are magical qualities to these as well too. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I did struggle with the stoat as the Page of Wands. And the only association that really spoke to me was the shifting of the coat color and sort of this chameleon-like energy, and maybe also being a smaller creature, being more playful and things like that. So hi Saskia, welcome. Yeah, and then this one, so this was a bit of a stretch. And I reread through the extra guidebook for all 4 of these scorecards earlier today, so it's fresh in my mind. And I think that Susanna Sello, the creator of this deck, is doing something a little different with the court cards. And I will speak to it because I'm going to talk about the horse next. There's this kind of blend of energy of capturing the qualities of the animal that is illustrated, but also the heart of some of the mythology and the humans or the other mythological human-like creatures that are involved with these animals. And the eagle as the great bird in many, many cultures, including the many myths that she shares in her guidebook, is one that has great sight, that sees the big picture. And she also references the, what do you call it? The phoenix as well, too, because this does look an awful lot like a phoenix sitting in the fire. That the Suit of Wands is about transformation. And so this was a really powerful archetype. This is a really powerful archetype, and I think a little unusual to be sitting in the position of the Page of Wands. And then the lovely Amelia, who is in Finland and knows a lot more about this mythology than I do, thought that perhaps because the eagle brought the fire to the humans, that was a strong association or a strong reason for making this the Page of Wands. So in this deck we have eagle, horse, mother of fire, and this one is so gorgeous, father of fire, king of wands, Panu. So we'll get there. Okay. And as I have done in the previous weeks, I'm going to read to you a little bit from some of these guidebooks. All right, let's put the pages to the side because that was already shared. I really, now, if you, let me get rid of that banner. I did, for those of you that don't know this deck, I did an extended series with this deck. So a deep dive, if you want to listen to me for several videos. This conversation and why I'm doing this began because I have been preparing, reading, studying, trying to understand this deck. This is the legend, the Arthurian Tarot. And I started looking at the guidebook for the Suit of Spears and was reading the description of the Suit of Spears, which is the Wands suit. And I was really messed up because it sounded so much like swords. And then when I was reading the individual wands descriptions, it felt more Waite Smith than the overall description. And I have this general impression of overlapping features in the suit of fire and the suit of air, that there's a lot of crossover. And the problem here is that students of tarot want to put these elements into neat little boxes and have keywords and descriptors for wands and keywords and descriptors for fire. I've been reading the tarot for a long time, more than 25 years, and studying the tarot deeply, reading, practicing, working. And the more I learn, the more I study, the more I practice, the more my mandala of tarot, my vision, my connections of tarot become interlinked. There is no separation among the elements. We can have distinctive qualities that we can use to describe them. And there is also a great deal of overlap. And that can be really difficult to hold space for. And so that's kind of what prompted the discussion and bringing in these three earth-centric shamanic type decks because they share a lot of the same characteristics. Now the Son of Flames, in Margaret Peterson's description in this deck, she talks about drumming and the language of fire, which is also in one of the descriptions in Susanna Salo's book as well, too. And that there is a heartbeat to the fire, that this pulse and the act of drumming, it's very, it's one of those things, you feel in every cell of your body. If you have done shamanic drumming yourself or journeying and listened to recordings, you know that it can transport you and take you away easily. So I just want to go to this Son of Flames descriptor here. And this is in the Little Margaret Peterson guidebook. I walk the path of the heart, of laughter and lust. I want to put the horse on here as well, too. And maybe the fox. Let's get them all on the table. I walk the path of the heart, of laughter and of lust. When my fire flows through the entire organism, I am called admirer of love's lust. I am the drummer. I serve a power which is greater than myself, and I tell the story of my clan, my kin, and my people through drumming. So I think this is so fascinating that we have this idea of energy and the telling of story. If you think about it really simplistically, wouldn't you associate story with the suit of swords and the pen and the voice? But no, here we have this weaving of tongues and fire. I am the catalyst in the space of distance. I drum feelings, and now we got another suit involved, out of the gut of people and make them twitch, vibrate, shake, twirl, and dance. And this is also a connection to the mother of flames, because Margaret Peterson talks about the connection to digestion with the suit of fire, which is really powerful and something that I work with in my healing energy. My language is easy to comprehend. It is simple, straightforward, and direct. And I can see here almost like a Chinese gong in this window. There's so many beautiful things that emerge. And there is perhaps a drum in the right hand of the Son of Flames. So super layered meaning here. Let me zoom in for you so you can see the art a little better. Now, in the Mythologia Fennica, this story is as much about the horse as it is about the figure, the man, who tames the horse. And maybe even more so, it's about the actions of the knight, of the hero of the story. And so why is the horse, so this is my question, why is the horse on the card instead of the man on the card? And I think that is, it's just symbolic of the energy. I mean, horses also, there's a lot of virility, right, that is associated with this particular court card. And that is also addressed in this book. So the hero is Lemminkainen. Lemminkainen was to harness the horse of Hisi. This was a task given to him in order to win the mistress of Pohjola. He called upon the god of thunder, and a storm broke out. Let me go back just a second. Lemminkainen climbed a great hill, looked to the east, and there he saw the brown, fiery maned steed. He called upon the god of thunder, and a storm broke out, and all the water, ice, and hail rained upon the horse and smothered its flames. Lemminkainen went to it, promising to be kind to it if it would allow itself to be harnessed, and the horse complied. Lemminkainen slipped the golden harness over the horse's head and rode to Pohjola to claim his prize. And he was given another task because the mother of the bride wasn't quite satisfied with that. And there are at least two other myths that follow, and this guidebook, there's so much more that could be written to connect these tales. And at first I thought this was a connected story, but it's not. There's, like with the eagle card, which I put over here, there are many myths that are shared in just a few short sentences for each one, and with this one as well too. Finnish sages have also utilized mythical horses when banishing ailments. They would call a horse from Hisi, which would then carry the illness, curse, or whatever to the caverns of the Great Stone Hill of Pohjola. This is a symbol that represents courage, daring, and the taking of risks, controlling of situations, and the correct way of directing strength. And so in a way, it has to do with this relationship of harnessing my fire and using my fire, using my strength for the right reasons. It's a very Manipura chakra kind of card. There's something here too about I do want to talk about the virility and the love and the knights and romance and the knights and sex and relationship and all of that. There was a word in the Margaret Peterson that addressed this, and I want to repeat it. My flame, this is this deck, which originated in my mother's golden glow. Oh, I didn't even read the sentences. Here we go. Even more crossover of association. My flame, which originated in my mother's golden glow, is called knowledge. So fire, light, right, is knowledge. I walk the path of the heart, of laughter, and of lust. And so in these decks, in these associations, in these layered meanings, we have references to air, storytelling, the sheer speed, and I'm thinking of the air of the drumming, the sound of the music that is very much associated with the heart chakra. It is the element of the heart. The knights in the Tree of Life associations belong in the Sephira of Tiferet, at the heart space, which is the element of air, which is the union of the mother and the father. So there's a lot of possibilities, layers of connection that can come out of these cards. The simplest of these three decks with the court cards is the Greenwood Tarot. There's very brief descriptions, and I was looking at the Kickstarter campaign for the new deck, and I don't think that the guidebook has been expanded, unfortunately, because Mark Ryan is such a beautiful writer. I think that a lot more could be added if he were to if you had time to expand on that. So the knight, the fox, the qualities of cunning and stalking combined with great alertness and curiosity make the fox a stealthy night hunter. Often seen at dawn, the fox retains a beguiling mixture of wisdom and playfulness. And in that description seems very similar to the characteristics of the stoat, with its ability to shift energy. So let's leave it at that, and then I'm going to come back and I'll try to weave more of this together. This is the Mother of Flames. This is a very dynamic energy. And do you remember the Sauna card in this deck, in Mythologia Fennica? There is a connection to the sauna here, and a Finnish word that I will hopefully remember after I reread something to you today. This is quite a different take on the Mother of Fire. In Margaret Peterson, it's very dynamic, and I will read from there. And my sense from Susanna Salo's writings is that the Mother of Fire is symbolic of warmth and contentment. And the Mother of Fire wants you to gather around the fire, to be warm, to learn to slow down and to take time to read a book and be nourished in those sorts of conditions. So let me get into that. So let's start with, in my notes, I call her Durga because she is described very much like Durga, as is the father of flames like Shiva. I am the flame born out of flame. The fire has consumed all slag, and my heart is pure as gold. Rider of tigers, I am. I tear apart the patterns that restrict the spontaneous expression of my being. Lust dwells in my nerves and muscles. Wave-like rhythms carry me away. I am the crimson red, mother of all colors, barefoot, pounding sparks from the soil. I burn and transmute the food in my intestines. I change hate into love and greed into compassion. I plant fresh green plants into black lava soil. So super powerful description. The ability to, it almost feels like this court card is more like the dynamic energy of Panu here. Mother of Flames is capable of so much. In flaming river of eternal creation, I appear at highways and street crossings with a bowl full of blood and a necklace made of skulls. So that's a reference to Kali. I am a comedienne. I love drama. I change my mask and my costumes. I am always unveiled. So this is a quality, a characteristic of one. What you see is what she is, or what they are. Every day I renegotiate with the goddess of taboo. So I guess in some way I struggle with, and I am challenged by how life is supposed to be, and I strive to always be authentic and genuine. And I feel this is deeply connected to Golden Dawn associations. If you work with the Waite-Smith or some variation of it, and the Crowley Tarot. And what is happening in Mythologia Fennica is a lot more tender, if you will. The Haltia of the hearth, the mother of fire, lived in the stove's ashes or behind the oven. It was red like fire and sometimes appeared as a figure in the hearth's flames. The mother of fire was a female and could also live in any other fireplace of any building of the residence. Its purpose was to protect the fire and prevent it from spreading. It could, for example, wake the inhabitants and warn them if fire was about to break out. Fire haltias were protective and benevolent if they were respected and the fire was fed with good wood. But if trash or sewage was cast into the fire, or if the fire was cursed, the fire haltia could become so enraged that it burned the whole house down. Now, this is also mentioned in the Father of Fire description as well, too, that fire is sacred, must be protected, kept clean, and that if we treat fire with respect and honor, that it will take care of us. Tales, now here is another link to the idea of storytelling, like in the Son of Flames in the Margaret Peterson. Tales and experiences were exchanged around the fire, and gazing into it concentrated the community's energy inwards, thusly strengthening the feeling of togetherness. And this feels a lot like the meditative message that we were hearing in the sauna card. So let me go back and find the sauna card, because it did talk about the haltia, that's the word I want to remember, of the sauna. And like the haltia of the sauna, the person who creates the first fire on a property is chosen carefully. This feels, I really like this, what would you call it, practice that perhaps, and I would hope in some aspect, is carried through in all families who are building a new home even today. At homes, the hearth has always been the symbol of the inner spiritual center. The return of travelers, seekers, and hunters is always a voyage to the hearth. And just scanning down here, the mother of fire tells of caring, warmth, contentment, and safety that is shared among family members and close friends around home. The mother of fire is the guardian of security, serenity, and good fortune at family relationships and at home. The mother of fire also tells that you've achieved deep self-knowledge through the adversities you have faced. And so there's quite a contrast here between, this feels very much like the Gaian tarot, and this feels more like the Crowley or the Waite-Smith tarot. Not as is drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, but perhaps with more freedom and energy in other decks. Now, this one fits in kind of nicely because the hair, I'd say the hair matches more closely with the Margaret Peterson Queen of Wands. The hair is very strong and dominant animal. I'll read you in Mark's words, connected to Ostara. And there is I like the relationship, the comparison between the hare and the adder. So that works well in this deck. But let me read you the short description for the Queen of Wands. And if you have worked with the Wildwood Tarot, this will be a familiar archetype for, I don't know if it's in the Suit of Wands but there is a queen in the wildwood that is this, that is the same, and that maybe also in one of the twos you see the boxing hares in the wildwood tarot. Hares have been linked to the spring. Easter equals Anglo-Saxon hare goddess, and sexuality since Celtic times, and it was considered taboo to kill them. Prolific breeders, they also represent fertility and potential. Hares are also famous for the boxing ritual in March. And I think between these three decks, we get quite a range of qualities of Queen of Fire, Mother of Fire. And in a way, I almost feel like this Mother of Fire feels like a Mother of Pentacles, in that she protects the home and protects the hearth. And yet there's this other lovely mention that while the Mother of Fire protects the home and the hearth, the element of fire itself is masculine. And so there's this, it's like the mother, how can I say that? The mother is the one who manages the masculine element of fire. They work together synergistically. So I like that anytime, a card or a book speaks to how black and white, light and dark, moon and sun are inseparable and work together, gets big points from me. Okay, and then the kings. So let's go to the kings. The Father of Fire in the Margaret Peterson is kind of difficult to understand. It is really chaotic. It's like it's taken the qualities of fire to some crazy extreme, and it is only because of the Mother of Flames that the Father of Flames exists. This is not a master of fire. This is one who has been healed by the Mother of Flames. And I have read the Margaret Peterson guidebook so many times. And trying to digest this description is not an easy task. So I'm going to read it again aloud, and maybe you'll get something different from it. Originating from the flame, my mind, and here we go again, mind fire, is a firework in the night sky. Sparks fall down from the sky, fire explodes, drops of fire collide and drift apart. So I am a firework. I am wild. I am untamed, right? Those are my words, not Margaret Peterson. A rolling wave of fire washes images from the realm of unconscious. So here, I don't know how much yogic association you're familiar with, but generally speaking, the divine feminine is the consciousness. So Shakti. Shakti is all that is manifest, and Shiva, the divine masculine, is all that is unmanifest. So here she's bringing in this sort of yogic association, saying that the Father of Flames is a carrier of, or a bridge of, a bridge for this energy from unconscious to conscious. I'll read that again. Where was it? A rolling wave of fire washes images from the realm of unconsciousness. An endless stream of images, half torn, half burnt, images of entangled predators, masks, distorted faces, angels and devils, one consuming and discharging the other, frenzied images, a shower of sparks cascading down and creating new scenes. So it feels like this Father of Flames is kind of lost in this place in between. Have you ever read an NDE stories where people are sort of lost in the place between death and life? They don't quite get to that lovely heavenly place. That's what this feels like to me. Like this Father of Flames has a tremendous responsibility to bridge from the unconscious to the conscious. Images of entangled bodies, one giving birth to the other. Shiva, the Indian god who created the world while dancing, is the symbol of the power to create and procreate. Explosions of fire releasing all holds. I become a spark, melt into the wave of images and burn my old trajectory. I am part of the cycle of dissolution and renewal, part of the cleansing fire. Bright sails of light flow through my veins. And I feel like we get a little bit of that in Panu as well, too. In the description, the initial few words, it says something to the effect of, if this is a Haltia, Panu is the Haltia of Haltias. There's a tremendous, can I say responsibility, maybe, of what this court card symbolically represents. And maybe, just maybe, so here's another random thought, unscripted here, is that, you know how sometimes the Father of Fire gets a really bad reputation? And maybe the King of Fire turns to his darkness because it's just all too much to handle. They turn to dominance, aggression, anger, control, all of these qualities of the solar plexus chakra in excess, because what they carry is just too much. And sometimes I feel that way too about the Father of Water, that he is painted in his shadow because what he carries as the master of the element is just too much. He has been through it all, and it's hard to always be the one holding space. And here it's hard to be the one always holding so much power, so much fire. And I hope this is helpful to you, because this is just me reflecting on my expanding understanding of what these court cards might mean. This is from Susanna Salo from Mythologia Fennica, under the Panu page. Fire's significance to mankind is great, for it provided light, warmth, and protection against predators. Fire has been utilized in many ways in a ritualistic sense, from ancient watchfires to modern candles that are burned at graves. In a spiritual sense, the fire symbolizes human inner fire, ideas, and creativity. Fire is a cleansing element that may also be a source of great calamity in the wrong hands. In the poems about fire, about the birth of fire, it falls all the way through the 9 layers of the underworld and becomes the eternal fire of Manala. The Finnish Haltia of fire was Panu, who was also the son of the sun. When someone burned themselves, the resulting wound was cured with spells. First, Panu was reprimanded for the damage it had done, and then the burning was banished from the person back to its dam, the sun. The opposing forces of fire were ice, water, and coldness. And then, like the other court cards, she goes on to share a couple of other myths. In the summary section, ooh, yes. And here we have a connection to the Son of Flames in the Margaret Peterson Tarot. Susanna Sallow writes, the mysterious sound that the burning fire makes, the mysterious sounds that the burning fire makes were known as the language of fire. And if a person became wise to it, they would become the fire's master, who was able to put it out, and whom flames couldn't hurt. It was believed that the thoughts that were thought when a fire crackled would become true. This, I've told you a few times about the bonfires till the wee hours of the morning that I attended when I was doing my shamanic training. And it's, the ceremonies, all that we did could have been concluded in a couple of hours. But it's like our teachers, our guides, kept us there. And everything was standing. We were always standing. There was no sitting around the fire. We were standing and drumming from, let's say, 8:30 p.m., from dusk until the wee hours of the morning. It was like the fire ceremonies were there to wear us thin, to break us down, like the fire transforms. And standing around the fire and drumming and chanting and singing is exhausting. And it does something to the mind and the physical body. So there's something about this King of Fire that wants to challenge you, wear you down. And yet, this card urges you to realize your own solutions with greater confidence and to trust in your own abilities, like your ability to endure the fire. And I think that's it's a beautiful link for me. Be proud of your accomplishments, but in a healthy manner. Don't hide your light, but let it shine through. As the master of fire, you know how to listen to it, and you understand what it says. So you become the keeper of the fire. You know its language. You know when it makes a certain sound, exactly what it needs. There's like messages that are shared with you in the fire. And I can, when I think about this, and sometimes you would call this archetype the keeper of the fire, it may fall into a different court in a different deck. I'm thinking of the Guardian. The Guardian does a great job with the fire court cards. No, not the Guardian. The Gaian Tarot does a great job with the fire court cards. And I think the Keeper of the Fire, I think it's the fourth court card as well, too, in that deck. I wonder if I have it here. I do have it here. Okay, just thinking out loud about what, if anything, are all of these decks linking together. And what can I take away from this? I think you will. So here's the knight in the Gaian, and that really sort of fits into the other decks for sure. This is another deck that so here's the Elder of Fire, and it's like they know the fire. They know the fire, and you can see that there's an altar behind, and they are, look at the eyes. It's like they are one with the fire. They are communicating with the fire. Oh, the fire suit in this deck is really, really something. Okay, I need to pull these out. So the Child of Fire feels a lot like the Stoat. And then I was looking for the Queen of Fire. So this is more the keeper of the fire. So what the king is the element itself. And the king of fire has this okay, so I can take this, I can even take this to another level. If you know Tree of Life associations. So the kings on the Tree of Life are in the Sephira of Hesed, second Sephira, part of the supernal triangle, connected closest to the crown, to spirit. They are the first Sephira down from Keter, from the crown. So the kings are deeply and most closely connected to spirit. And when you get a deck that goes in this direction, even this one here, and maybe even the wildness of what's going on here, you know, this card is one as a bridge between the unconscious and the conscious, and living in the frenzy of the fire all the time. That's super intense. And I think over time it would make you a little nuts to be in that. I have shared conversations with people that are enlightened and great guides for many people. And it's a really challenging place to be. As for the adder, at this time of year, adders represent, so this time of year is Imbolc to Beltane. They represent serpentine earth energies rising from the ground into the air and intertwining. As male adders struggle for dominance, sometimes this is mistaken for a mating ritual. They also represent magical power, balance, and the healing arts. And I think it's their power and their struggle for dominance. And also the way that the male adders, when they fight, it's like dancing flames. They look a lot like the fire itself. Where I'm going to go from here is to compare and contrast the suit of swords in these decks with the suit of fire. And what I am hoping is that there are as many references to the element of fire as there are to the element of air in the Suit of Swords descriptions. That there have been references to voice and air and story and ideas in the Suit of Fire in these decks as part of my wandering and understanding of this relationship between air and fire, that they work together, that they are not separable. They may have their own unique qualities, but that other element is always there supporting it. Okay, well, it seems like Sadhana's done all the talking today, and if you want to think about this and come back and leave a comment, I would really appreciate it. And I will be, so this week, actually tomorrow, I'm going to record my next deck recommendations. And I'm going to do this video, share with you 2 mass market and 2 self-published decks that I like to work with for ancestral connections. So thanks, and have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Take good care. Namaste.